Hey everybody, before the show starts, log on to musicmoneymakeover.com/shop to download all my books and free guides. And while you're there, make sure you click on the book a call tab to book a call with me to get all your questions answered and your problem solved. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Money Makeover Show. This is the Motown Records System Explained, part number 2. Now, we're going to jump into the A&R department on this episode. And this one is, the A&R department is mainly focused on unlocking the potential of the artists, right? And the people that you have on your label. So let's jump into what they classify the A&R as on Motown. And as you can see, they pulled from record labels that already existed. And you can kind of see how it will evolve into what the A&R does now, or is now being phased out into artificial intelligence to do. So, artists and repertoire, right? Artists and repertoire. The main goal of this A&R is to find these artists and to find people who can help this artist build a sound. So let me explain how we get there. All right, so the first thing, at least how Motown did it in their day, was that they needed some bands to play the compositions that the songwriters were writing, right? The songwriters could sit down at the piano, play a little melody, a little tune or something like that, just to get the song out. That was their basic tool, whether it be guitar or piano, they would just play something. But they needed it to be embellished, and therefore a task had to be handled. A band it had to be assembled in order for Motown to be able to produce this certain type of sound. In today's terminology, this process is called finding the producer that will fit with the songwriter, all right? But back then, it was finding the band that could produce the compositions that the songwriter was working on, all right? So, we're gonna find these people based on the geographical location that we're in. And at this time, Detroit was full of great musicians due to that great migration and the concentration of black people into one tight area. You had, black people working at the steel mills and the auto plants and all this stuff. So money was being made in order to bring instruments back, whether it be from pawn shops or from musician shops or whatever have you. So these students, these children were, in an education program as well that afforded them the opportunity to play music within the schools, to go on field trips, to witness music being played within the Detroit area community. So when you have a community that's focused on art or that has access to arts, then the mind can be creative enough to say, I'm going to play this. Concentration of wealth, concentration of dollars in one area provides things like churches and clubs for these musicians to reside in. Whether they play at the church on Sunday and they're playing at the club on Friday and Saturday nights, they have areas to hone their skills in these places. So the geographical area is concentrated, highly concentrated. Instruments are put in, music is introduced in the public school system, and the access to the arts is available. So you have trained musicians, and then you have untrained musicians that were the jazz musicians. The trained musicians were the classically trained orchestrative musicians. All right, so we have those. We pull out of these. And Motown then creates a band that is called the Funk Brothers.
And they became the Funk Brothers, and they became our house band.
We hired the jazz musicians because they were smarter than normal musicians. They could do all this stuff. But Jameson, who was always doing upbeats and downbeats and jazzy things, he would get off the beat.
When I think of Benny Benjamin and James Jamerson and Robert White and Earl Van Dyke, Joe Messina, and on and on and on, you've got to know that I was picking up from all those various musicians, trying to figure out how to do it.
Paul Ryser, when he came there doing the arrangement, he was only 18 years old. One of the greatest arrangers ever, just out of high school.
Now, I was classically trained and enjoyed nothing but classical. I thought that R&B music was just the worst, okay?
Okay, so when they produced the Funk Brothers is now, they're now producing the Motown sound along with the songwriters, okay? And then, of course, the sound of Motown will also come from the way the recording studio is built, how the engineers recording the stuff, and the rooms that they have to record, and the instruments that they have as well. one key thing that I've learned from engineers is that you start mixing the record before you even get into the studio by way of your selection of microphones, instruments, how it's played, etc., right? Your guitar, what kind of strings will the guitar have on it? What kind of pickups will the guitar have on it? What kind of piano is it? Is it upright, mini grand, grand? What type of wood is the piano used? You get what I'm saying? The vocalist, what type of vocalists are they? High pitch, low pitch, right in the middle? Do they sing sharp or flat? All this, the background singers. That's mixing the record. That's building that sound before you even press record. And they were able to do this with all of the local area musicians and the songwriters that existed at Motown at the time. That was the sole task of the A&R at Motown, because there was no band. There were just random musicians, so they had to compile a nice set of musicians to be able to handle what the songwriters were doing. And in turn, they built a sound for that. That is how you, and I got my definition written, that is how you create or craft a sound. All right, so find producers that complement the songwriter or artist to create the sound. That's the recipe. All right, so that's how the A&R department worked at Motown, and that's how they built it. So now if you go, and I'm going to do a series on Master P as well. I think this is a great point to point out here, that Master P had pretty much followed this same blueprint whether he knew it or not. It was already out there. He was just following suit. You'll find that Puffy, Sean Combs with the Hitmen, it's the same thing. He has a group of producers that fit the songwriters that produced the Bad Boy sound. Master P had KLC and Beats by the Pound that produced the sound of No Limit. Manny Fresh was Cash Money. You get what I'm saying? Like, who else is like Organized Noise was the sound of the Dungeon Family, Goody Mob and Outkast. You have to have creators that match the songwriters to produce this certain sound, and it's not always picking beats offline. You might find someone that you can pick beats from offline to complement your writing, but it's not until you really get into the studio with them to craft something. Crafting a sound is something that's much more unique than just getting a producer here or there to make your song sound great. You can have great songs, but then have a great sound puts you at another level. Anyway, so that's part 2 of the Motown Records system explained. Stick around for part 3 next week, and I'll see you all after the weekend, all right? Everybody, thanks for watching the show. Make sure you log on to musicmoneymakeover.com/shop to download all my books and free guides. And while you're there, click on the Book a Call tab to book a call with me to get all your questions answered and problems solved. I'll see you all soon.